Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast.
Hello everyone, this is Jarvis S. Scott with What's Happening Birmingham. I'm back with part 2. I'm here at the Levite Jewish Community Center. And as promised, I'm going to do a second segment. Today I'm here, I call them a good friend, Richard Friedman and Tzlil McDonald. And they're here to kind of give part 2 of the conversation, but also Tzlil's here to give me a perspective. That's why right here where you see the maps of the areas that was attacked by Hamas on October 7th. So Tzlil, before you start, just do a quick little bio. You want to start, Richard?
Yeah, I'm Richard Friedman. I'm the retired executive director of the Birmingham Jewish Federation. I had a long career at the Jewish Federation, also a long career in journalism.
Okay, and Tzlil.
Hi, my name is Tzlil McDonald. I'm the Director of Jewish Life here at the Levite Jewish Community Center. I'm originally from Israel, came here about 10 years ago as representative of the State of Israel in the organization Jewish Agency to educate about Israel and connect the community here in America to Israel through education and programming and engagement. And I also serve at the Israeli IDF as a sergeant in a combat engineering corps. Part of my service, I also served in the Gaza Strip, so I'm a little bit familiar with the area. And we have here our map, and the attack that happened on October 7th morning was one of the largest attacks to Jewish people since the Holocaust. Over 1,200 people died. Many people were raped. Houses were burned. Children were kidnapped from their home with their families, and technically all of our life has been stopped and shattered since that day. And what I would like for a lot of our readers and listeners and people that will watching us may not be familiar with the state of Israel, so I think it's a great opportunity to show on the map where we are located. So the Gaza Strip is not here on this map, but it's here on the southern east area of Israel, and it's border with the Mediterranean Sea, and it's very small and very populated. And on October 7, around all the Gaza Strip, there is villages and kibbutzim that we called it Otef Aza, the Gaza envelope. And there is a phenomenal resource that I would like to send, and you will share it later, that's called Mapping the Massacre. And I am originally from a southern city called Beersheba, which is located about here, which is about an hour and a half south from Tel Aviv. You can see Jerusalem here on the map. But on October 7, not just the Gaza Strip were affected, the villages that people were murdered and injured, and the festival, the Peace Festival, Music Peace Festival that were happening in Re'im. We are also talking about over 5,000 rockets that were sent all over the country, bringing people from Eilat to Jerusalem through the north. And currently, as we speak, and there's about 250,000 of Israelis that are displaced from their home because they're unsafe, whether it's in around the Gaza Strip and whether if it's in the north because of rockets coming from Lebanon. I want to point some other locations here that we are acknowledging in the Levite Jewish Community Center, different places in Israel that were affected. Rosh Hashanah is our partnership city. We actually had a delegation coming here about a couple of weeks ago. We wanted to support them. We want to bring people together. As you heard, this is something that is ingrained in our Levite Jewish Community Center. But more than ever, our communication with the people of Israel is a center goal and importance for us today more than ever. One more thing that we talked about is Haifa, where they're still receiving rockets right now, and Eilat, which is one of the southern city that is in border with Egypt as well. Tzfat, where is all the religions of Israel and the mysticism is exploring. And this is one of the regional area where a lot of the Moshavim in Israel were affected. A lot of my friends from the army are residents of those kibbutzes and Moshavim, and some of them have experienced terrorism for over 20 years, but especially on October 7, this was a horrific moment in our history.
Now, when I first heard about it, the actual, the attack, it was some like news reports, and maybe I can get from you confirm, like they came flying, like hang gliding from the sky.
They came from the air, from the sea, and by foot. With people walked in, people rode on motorcycle with their cars, and massive attack on in a day of rest. If I compare it to America, it's like someone will attack America on Thanksgiving morning, where all the families about to celebrate the holiday meal, and people come together, people are resting, people are in joyful moment for a lot of families. So people that are not even residents of those kibbutzim, some of them are residents, American residents that came for a visit, some of them from France, some from Germany, even they had a non-Israeli Filipinians worker that goes to the agriculture fields. So it was really an attack, not necessarily just on the Israeli people, but it was over also almost 2 million Arab citizens in Israel that were also affected by it, and also Palestinian residents in Gaza, because a lot of those rockets that are launching from Gaza also falls within Gaza, and this is something that we also have to acknowledge.
So when over in Israel, I guess I heard a report, and maybe you all can confirm, like when do you all have like sirens, like bomb sirens that go off? So
Yes.
when this happened, it wasn't even time for that.
So that was part of the attack, what made it so hard for the forces, because when they fired 5,000 rockets in that morning, which forced Israelis, we have the red alarm, code red alarm, that forces people to go into shelter, and at the same time we had the forces, their intelligent equipment and technology on the border. There's like a lot of cameras and a lot of signals that the IDF receives when someone crosses the border, but they explode all those intelligent equipment, and so the forces were unable to direct all the IDF forces, and they were also low in numbers at that morning. So that's a lot of reasons why it took them a long time to react, but luckily, and I'm saying it luckily because the Hamas terrorists were able to come to Ofakim as a Beersheba resident, and my family is there. Luckily, they were stopped before they were able to create the terrorist attack. They were planning for something bigger. They came with ammunition and equipment for days. So luckily, the IDF were able to stop them, because otherwise we would have seen, luckily it didn't happen, but more casualties on October 7th.
So for those, go ahead, Richard.
And I'd like to add something. You're here at the Levite Jewish Community Center. You just had a wonderful tour by our executive director about all of the great things that are going on here. At the same time, the Jewish community continues to live with a very heavy heart and in an ever-present aura of sadness. And it's a duality that we're here celebrating Jewish life, embracing friends from throughout the community who want to use this facility, yet at the same time, never losing sight of the horrible tragedy that was perpetrated against the Israeli people, the war against Israel, growing anti-Semitism, which is hatred and hostility toward Jews, pictures of the hostages held by Hamas, which just hang maybe 10 yards that way. And this is one of the challenges of Jewish living today. So when people like yourself, people who may be viewing this, people who care about the Jewish community reach out, it has such a wonderful, uplifting feeling. And look, we respect the fact that different people have different perspectives on the war that's going on right now. And that's a complex subject with a number of implications to it. But at its core, it's that horrible, horrible massacre that was perpetrated by ruthless, bloodthirsty terrorists that has caused us to be in this unfathomable predicament that's going on right now. and it is constantly on our hearts.
And one thing I guess I want to mention, when you mentioned IDAF, that's the equivalent to our military, U.S.
It's
military.
the Israeli Defense Forces, and it's not just the army, it's also Air Force, it's also Navy, so all the forces are what combine and make the Israeli Defense Force. And I think this is something that we need to keep in mind, because the Israeli Defense Force, at its mission, at its core, is to defend the state of Israel. So luckily we have different technology like the Iron Dome, that it's a system that is helping Israelis defend itself from the rockets coming from Gaza and coming from Lebanon today. And that's what caused us not to have as much as casualty as it was if we didn't have this system that day. Because think about it, 5,000 rockets, not all of them were directly hit, not all of them were actually successful launch and hit all those places we discussed over the map.
And I want to add something that's very important, I believe, to communicate. Israel and Hamas are locked in a terrible, terrible war that we do know was started by Hamas, that Israel has had no choice but to respond, that Hamas leaders have said they intend to do this, referring to the October 7th massacre, again and again and again. And now as Israel is responding, they're going after an enemy that plants itself in schools, mosques, playgrounds, other hospitals, other civilian areas. And the challenge for the Israeli army is to ferret out, seek out the Hamas terrorists while avoiding as many civilian casualties as possible. And the predicament there is Hamas uses civilians as human shields, and it places Israel in an impossible predicament. Tzlil at a program yesterday talked about the moral and ethical training that an Israeli soldier goes through and must comply with, even to the point in their uniform, as she noted, they are required to carry codes of conduct. And Israel has taken a terrible black eye in public opinion for a war it did not start, a war it did not want, against an enemy dedicated to its destruction and the murder of its citizens, that has said it's going to do it again and again and again, and then the enemy hides behind civilians, children, babies, in hospitals, schools, mosques, playgrounds. With all that said, we in the Jewish community are deeply saddened, anguished at the innocent people in Gaza who have lost their lives as a result of this conflict. And everything I just said, which is an explanation and a context, does not take away from the tragedy of the innocent people in Gaza who have died as a result of this Hamas-initiated war. And finally, very important to understand, it could end tomorrow.
Okay.
It could end tomorrow if Hamas, A, released all of the Israeli hostages that it holds in underground tunnels and elsewhere. B, if Hamas would surrender and dismantle its terrorist structure, and see if the leaders of Hamas agree to be deported to other countries that are not on the border of Israel. It could stop like that.
Could stop on October 8th, actually.
So it is a very complicated situation. And finally, we as Jews stand in solidarity with Israel. We care deeply with Israel, and so do many of the people who walk through these halls who aren't Jewish. Israel is proudly celebrated.
Yeah, I see.
You also see, you probably didn't notice, out front we have an American flag and an Israeli flag the Israeli flag is flying at half-staff to commemorate the tragedy and the fact that there is currently a war. So we carry a lot of complex emotions in our heart, but never losing the sight of what the true underpinnings of this conflict are, never compromising on our fidelity and support to Israel, the world's only majority Jewish state, and we yearn for peace. We yearn for a speedy resolution, which, and I'll stop here, could easily take place if Hamas agreed to the things that I just mentioned.
I want to point out a few things that we did here at the Levite Jewish Community Center as a reaction for the situation in October 7. First of all, we hosted an event, as you heard Brooke saying, in our auditorium. We also created a safe space in this campus where my children at the preschool right now are being guarded by two guards in this campus that are saving us right now and making sure the facility will be secured, and we will be able to do all this wonderful programming, and people will be able to come and exercise and get services that we offered. We also opened our doors and created a living room in our lobby where there is refreshment, there is coffee. We invite people to into our space to come and sit down and talk. We did different kind of bulletin boards where people were able to share their thoughts and feelings, and we also had a lot of people bringing us food and desserts. The enormous supports that we got from the community is very heartwarming, and it's really, really important to us when people are reaching out. Also, with the help of the Birmingham Jewish Federation, there is an emergency campaign for Israel where Richard, Brooke, and I went, and other volunteers from the community went to churches, businesses, and different civic groups where we talked about what's going on in Israel to raise awareness, and also people were able to understand where, if they would like to financially support, where they could help and where the money goes in Israel.
And what I want to add to is about security, okay? You see some of the security with your own eyes. There are things that you don't see. We take security here very, very seriously. And it is not to create a fortress mentality. It's to ensure the well-being of our members, to give everyone who enters this facility a peace of mind that they are safe here. We have in this complex a community security director. He is a retired FBI agent, specializes in counterterrorism. So we take all of that very seriously. In fact, he has said that it is the Jewish community institutions that he thinks are the safest in Birmingham, because not only do we have to navigate the threat of anti-Semitism, we know we're living in an era in general where schools in general and many other public institutions are vulnerable to all sorts of attacks. So those of us who have family located in aspects of this facility, I think can feel comfortable. We've seen no downturn in membership since October 7th. In fact, we've seen increasing membership and increasing usage. So that is something that we continue to monitor. Thankfully, there have been no incidents, but we stay vigilant. We have to as a community, and our history teaches us to be vigilant.
Okay, well, Tzlil and Richard, thank you for coming on today to discuss this topic. And you know, one thing, like I told the viewers in the previous segment, is like I always try to do different topics on my podcast, and like things that's relevant. Not only, you know, relevant in the world, but also relevant in our city. And I feel like what happened back in October is a very relevant topic. You all want to stay tuned for part 3, because me and Richard is going to kind of recreate the conversation that kind of began this whole podcast interview. So you all definitely want to stay tuned. Tzlil, thank you again.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for, I guess I can say thank you for your service. You know, because like one thing I've noticed that most of the citizens of Israel, they also are in the military as well, right?
Yes, they are required to serve in the military, men and women, when they came to age 18. You also are able to serve additionally, like I did in a combat position as a woman, so you serve another year like men, but now the IDF is more incorporating women in different roles in the IDF, especially active roles as fighters, and I'm very thankful for this.
Okay, well, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for part 3.
Thank you so much.
Please check out what'shappenedbirmingham.com for more interviews. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and check out the audio version of this on Apple Podcasts. Thank you all again, and have a great day. And I should have said in the previous segment, visit the Levite Jewish Community Center. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.